thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Dude, rocking the Alani Nu again. What's up?
I'm trying to get a sponsorship.
I know.
I had it on stage with me Sunday as well. So we're going to send clips to them and see if they want to sponsor us.
I've never had one. I've never tried one.
Well, this purple one's amazing.
Which one is that? The Cosmic
This is called
Stardust?
the Cosmic Stardust, and it is the way I start almost every one of my mornings.
What's it taste like? Cosmic?
Yeah, it's out of this world.
I mean, is it like cotton candy or is it berry or like what is it?
It's not cotton candy or berry. I don't know. It's mixed up pretty good. It tastes very good because it only has 10 calories in it, no sugars.
That's like the worst description.
Yeah.
What does it taste like? It tastes good.
It does. For being like so like low calorie and no sugar and has like different vitamins and stuff in it,
Yeah.
you would think that it would taste like garbage, but it doesn't. It tastes incredible.
Yeah. All right.
And it has 200 milligrams of caffeine in it, which is, I don't know, 3 cups of coffee or maybe even more.
See, my problem is that like if I find something like that and then I enjoy the flavor of it, I crush it. I smash it. And then I'm like,
Yeah. So see, like I've been sipping on, like that's what I've learned is you have to sip on it. Like I've been sipping on that since 7:30
yeah.
or maybe 7:45. Right. So I've already been drinking it for like an hour and a half and it's only halfway gone.
Yeah.
I can't be drinking it hard like that.
See, that's my problem. Like
Yeah.
I like with like a Monster or Red Bull cuz I like the flavor, like original Monster, like the green one.
Oh man. I got addicted to those
Smash it.
one time
Smash
at
it.
I think it was my first youth camp I ever took students to when I was the youth pastor.
Yeah.
The speaker that week had all kinds of Monsters in his room, and I'd never tried it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking, I got hooked. But I had to stop drinking those because those were literally giving me like heart palpitations. They're so intense. But they're
You're not supposed to
on-
drink like 5 of them in a day.
Well, I mean, it was getting to the point where I would drink one of them so fast it would cause me issues. Like
Yeah.
those taste so good,
Yeah, I know.
so good. But
They need like a light one where you can smash it and then it only has like enough caffeine like of a cup of coffee or something.
yeah, I love the flavor. I can't do the zero stuff though.
Like
Most-
0 sugar or something.
Yeah, most of those taste terrible. Whereas like this with 0 sugar, seriously, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a podcast about shoes, and you're dressed not for the occasion of a podcast talking about shoes, but that's all right. Look,
Yeah.
we understand like why you're this way because
Yeah.
we got some business that we have to attend to in terms of just showing up and being there for some very, very close friends, people that we consider family. They had a family member pass away, and so.
Yeah, so I don't have my sneakers on. I do have my loafers on, which is like a once every 6 month type
Rocking the air loafs.
deal. So yeah, But I was thinking as I was getting ready, I was like, I know that I'm doing a podcast about sneakers today, but it's a podcast and not a video, except for like it does go out via video. So I
Yeah,
was not considering that portion
yeah.
whatsoever.
I think most of our traction comes from like the Facebook Live or
Yeah.
the Facebook.
Well, I
videos
had
that we
thought
do.
about bringing a bunch of my shoes in and just putting them on the table.
Yeah, like we did with like the candy episode.
Yeah, that would have been much better. But it was just not a. This was not the day to go elaborate. We just too many other things going on. And I was just messing with you before the show started.
Yeah.
Your shoes aren't much higher up on the scale.
Oh, yeah, but
when
these are good. They're comfortable.
they're
Oh, as I drop
Texas
my phone.
A&M Adidas.
Like limited edition.
Yeah, but they're still like
Well, the problem
they're
is
still Adidas.
they only made like a certain amount of these, right? And so
It's because they didn't think they'd sell many of them.
I know you could probably still find them. Yeah, but what I like about these as well is that like all the plastic that's on the outside of these,
Mhm.
they made from like that big pile of trash that's out in the ocean. They went and collected
What?
some of the plastic. So like all
Wow.
of this right here, all that's made from plastic they recycled it from the ocean.
What did you get on those already?
I scuffed them.
Oh my word! You've only worn them like 3 times.
Dude, they're shoes. I don't wear them to not.
Oh.
I mean, if it gets scuffed, they get scuffed. But
Oh, my
look, I keep them
goodness.
white, keep them
Man,
clean.
the guy that I'm coaching All-Star basketball with, we're both Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
And so for the playoff game Sunday, we had a scrimmage. He actually had Nike, some Nike sneakers that were Dolphin themed. They were awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
So, obviously, I think it's something. One of the things that people kind of like look at whenever, because I've had people comment like on some of the shoes that I wear on Sunday. You've kind of stepped up your shoe game since I've been here. Like I want to talk about like what got you into like shoes.
Yeah.
Like maybe was it something early on, or maybe it's something that just snapped, like, or just something triggered like the last couple of years. Like what got you into
Yeah.
shoes?
So it's an interesting story. I loved shoes growing up. So but we always had this rule in our house. My mom and dad would only pay $60 for a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So on the occasions that I would want more expensive shoes than that, I would have to make up the difference, which I would do that pretty regularly.
Yeah.
But I loved shoes, like from early on, just absolutely loved shoes.
Yeah.
Like never cared a whole lot about clothes necessarily, but shoes I was always down. And it like my mom and dad would always give $60 per, and then I would go above and beyond that from time to time. And then in college, I started working at Hibbett Sports. Do they
Oh,
have
yeah.
those where you're from? Okay.
No, they don't, but I'm
But you know
familiar
Hibbett.
with it. Yeah.
So I worked at Hibbett Sports, and so I got discounts on shoes, and we sold Jordans.
Oh, yeah.
In that Hibbett Sports, and so I would like this. This is me. Like I loved shoes, but I was also an idiot at the same time. So I had a pair of shoes that I bought at Hibbett's with my employee discount. So I probably got these Jordans for like $80
Yeah.
would be my guess, and I've now seen them on some of the websites for upwards of $400, $500, $600. And I junked them, man. I junked them because, like, I liked shoes, but I didn't understand taking care of them so much. And
Or
so
just maybe like the collectability of some of them.
yeah,
so.
I didn't understand that. So, like, I've always been into shoes, but then what happened was, after I got out of really in college and right after college, like, I'm poor, right?
Yeah.
I'm poor in college. I'm poor out of college. So, like, I don't really, like, I'm back to, like, I got into the rhythm of I would walk into a store and go straight to the clearance rack and find, like, the nicest thing I could find
Yeah.
for clearance. But, like, I wasn't comfortable early on in ministry dressing how I was comfortable. I thought I was supposed to look a different way,
Yeah.
right? And so I would
Like slacks and button ups and ties.
I went through a season of that, but then some of it I was like, I would wear I would wear jeans and a T-shirt when I was a youth pastor, but I would never I didn't care at that moment. Like I wasn't like going out and like I was just again I was 23 years old making practically no money, so
Yeah, you were just
I just
excited to
did-
have a job at
yeah,
that point.
and so at that moment, because a lot of the shoes, and you know this, like a lot of the shoes that I have now, other people have bought for me. Like
Yeah.
I asked for them for Christmas or birthdays or things like that. The only pair of shoes Megan and I have bought like that hasn't been Christmas or anything like that was my all white Jordan 1 lows that I wear. I don't know, 80% of the time when I'm preaching.
Yeah.
We bought those. They're $90.
Yeah.
But like early on, like I didn't have anything like that. And then I went through that phase where I would wear dress shoes probably almost every day to work, every Sunday to church, because I was
Yeah.
wearing like I am today. I would wear button ups, and then like I got into a boots phase, like all sorts of boots. Like I have cowboy boots.
Yeah, I've
So
got
like
a
even
pair.
though like so I've always loved shoes. And so in that phase, like I went wild. I've got like all kinds of boots.
Yeah.
Like, and I loved my boots. So I would wear those with my jeans all the time
Yeah.
as well. And then like I think as time just went on, and really the pandemic did a lot of this too, it was just like I just felt more comfortable finally being myself, which is like I like nice shoes, right? And but like not nice on like the level of I still don't have any shoes that cost more than like $150.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have any that come close to that.
Yeah.
Right. And they're out there, right? I mean,
Oh, for sure.
like the shoes that I wear are cheap compared to like what most sneakerheads
Yeah, I was
would
on
have.
that same program too, where mom. But you're one of two kids. I'm one of five, and so I was
Yeah.
on the $40
Yeah, you
plan,
don't have $40 plan.
and so I would mow lawns and stuff like that, and make a little bit money here and there. But my goal wasn't shoes or anything like
Yeah.
that. I was trying to save up for drum set, and it wasn't until whenever I was a huge Michael Jordan fan,
Mhm.
and I always, I was always looking at shoes and stuff like that, but I never
Yeah.
really paid attention until the Jordan 11s came out, which
yeah.
were like they're all white and then they've got this big black patent leather that goes all the way around them.
Yep.
And I just remember looking at them and I was going, "What in the world? Like these things are on." It opened my eyes and my mind to like, okay, like those are some really like those are cool shoes, and it's actually probably like one of my top 5 dream pair. Is
Mhm.
they call them the Concords, which is the
Oh, me
classic
too.
11s. I'd love a pair. I've got a pair of 11s, but they're not that colorway.
Oh,
But
you got the all black, right?
yeah, they called them the Barons. So it was it's the colorway that whenever Michael Jordan retired the first time and he went and played baseball, and they took the colors from his jersey and put them on the shoes. But I just remember I was like, oh man, just seeing it and then seeing them wear them on the movie and stuff,
Yeah.
because it came out Space Jam came out in 96. I'm like 12, 13 or something
Yeah.
like that. Most kids don't even care about shoes, or I should say, most kids from our era didn't even care about shoes.
Yeah, no, they do now. Like, because
Oh.
my son is already into them, even though he doesn't know how to take care of them.
Yeah, Nolan is
Like,
too.
Landon got 2 pairs of Jordans for Christmas, like one from us and then one from his cousin.
How bad
And,
are they already?
Well, his one of them is only a basketball shoe.
Okay.
He got the new Luka ones, the
Okay.
black and red. And he's actually doing a good job with those. Because I said, look, these are for basketball. I said, you have to wear something to the gym. You take them off, you put them on, then you change shoes before you leave. He's done it every single time. Perfectly.
That's good.
But I was telling you about those Jordans with the Mario.
Yeah.
These are like these, they're a pair of Jordans. They have like Super Mario theme around the back of them and on the inside of them. And he wore them a couple times, did really good with them. Like he even wore them to school one day. And I was like, look, that's fine if you want to wear them to school. Like they're meant to be worn. Like they're not supposed to sit on a shelf. I said, but you guys do recess outside, so take a pair of shoes with you. He did fine with that. Well, then 2 weekends ago, we went out to dinner for a family member's birthday, and he wore them to Texas Roadhouse. And somehow, just sitting there during dinner, he destroyed those shoes. Like, I'm like, what were you doing under the table that would cause, like, if you were just sitting, how did you get these shoes so dirty? So
Yeah.
now we're in the process of trying to clean them so the way he can, like, so, like, he's into them. Like, even Olivia loves and I've only worn them once so far, my new Fruity Pebbles,
Yeah.
the Dunk Low Fruity Pebbles. They're LeBron. I think LeBron did those. And she loves those.
Yeah.
But I don't think they make them in kids. So, like, my kids, their aunt, my sister, also love shoes.
Yeah.
But she's, like, in a different style. She likes Vans.
Yeah.
So she has a ton of different styles of Vans. She likes, I think they're Brooks. and they're like themed Brooks. Like she has one that's like the New York City Marathon Brooks, and it has like cityscape on the side of them and stuff. So like both of us that grew up in our house loved shoes.
Yeah.
We just never really had the money to go out and like. I was thinking when you were talking, I think the first like really like nice pair, and again that's like my version of nice, not like these crazy people's version of nice, was I had a class with a guy that I was talking to, like, hey, like if I wanted to like up my shoe game or like what, I said, what should I do? That he was like, oh, Air Force Ones, right?
Yeah.
And well, when I went to so I asked my mom if we could get my shoes. She said, yeah, you know the rules, $60, whatever. When I went, well, you couldn't buy Air Force Ones for $60.
No.
And I don't think I had any money at that time. But I really wanted to like follow this dude's advice to get some nice shoes. And I don't know. I don't even know if they make these still. But do you remember they actually had Air Force 2s?
No.
Yeah.
What? That don't make sense.
I think that's what they were called. Was like the Air Force 2s or whatever.
Yeah.
And I bought those, and they were nice. And I took really good care of them in high school. But that was like the first time I remember going and like buying a shoe that I like knew the name of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Jordans that I had in college that would probably be worth like 10 times what I paid for them now were the Jordan 4s. And we got them into the store. They were black with red and gray. And yeah, I've seen them on Goat and Flight Club for like $400, $500, $600, $700.
Yeah.
And I did not take good care of them
Yeah.
at all.
I'm not one of those ones I don't know that I'll ever sell like any, because I want to wear them and I don't care about like creases and stuff like that. Like most
I
people
can't care about that.
Like some people, like they walk all strange and funny and like to try not to get like a crease, like where like your foot naturally bends like on the top of your toes or whatever. And it's just, if I've got some place to be and I've got nice shoes on, then I'm just going to walk in them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like what some people do. I know that some people even like go so much far as like whenever they collect them, they just store them, just leave them in the box and just put them in the garage, or they like they buy like those little like acrylic see-through display cases, and then they just convert like a room into their house. I think that's just ridiculous because, like I said, shoes just need to be worn, whatever. You need to be able to enjoy them, not just look at them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like creasing my shoes, but it does happen because I wear my nicest shoes to preach in.
Yeah.
And I don't wear them outside the building. Like, I will carry them in, I will change, and then I will put my Jordan sandals right back on.
Yeah.
Just like I am also in, like, a love affair with the Jordan slides.
Yeah.
And I've been like that since probably college. Like, those are just my favorite slides.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, I got 2 pairs of them for Christmas this year. Again, I didn't buy either one of them.
Yeah.
So I love those. But, like, I creased my all-white Jordan 1s the very first day I wore them to preach in. And I was bummed, but I was also like, I mean, I've got to walk around, and I can't walk on my heels right while I'm preaching. Although I did do that when I wore my Dunks 2 weeks ago. I did walk on my heels pretty much the whole morning, and when I left, I felt miserable.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. At the end of the day, they are just shoes, and they're really not that expensive.
Yeah.
And I know somebody will hear like, oh, that's a $140 pair of shoes. You're saying it's not expensive, and I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, that's really not expensive. Like,
it really isn't.
I was looking on Goat, which is, for those that are listening that you're like, we have no idea what you guys are talking about.
They're probably tuned out by now.
There's a website that you can buy and sell shoes on.
I promise it gets better.
I found like a pair of shoes on there. I didn't even think they were that good looking of a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And they were like $40,000. Like $40,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for what? Oh, they were the Have you ever seen? They were the Pigeon Dunk Lows.
Yes, yeah.
$40,000.
They came out in the 90s. I forget the guy's name who did it, and he designed them, and they released only in New York, and there was only like several hundred of them or something like that, or maybe like 1,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, if somebody gave me a pair, I'd wear them.
Oh,
I wouldn't
all day.
even care.
But $40,000. So I'm saying,
All right,
when
sell
I
'em.
say that my Fruity Pebbles, I think, are somewhere between like $110 and $140.
Yeah.
Like most of the shoes that I actually want, when I go and I check the price on them, it'll be like 400, 500, 1100. I'm like, good grief. Well,
Yeah.
I don't guess I'm ever gonna have those. So I buy sneakers
Yeah.
that I like, but they're still on a budget.
Yeah. The funny thing is like too, with being in ministry, it's like even if somebody was like, here's the winning lottery ticket, for the multi-millions or
yeah.
whatever, I still, as awesome or incredible as it would be to be able to own a shoe or something like that, I still look at it and I go, gosh, even if you're spending $400, $500, $600, $1,800 on a stupid pair of shoes, I look at it and I'm going, we could probably do a lot with this. Like this
Oh,
could
yeah.
fund like some crazy event.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've got it down to where we do amazing events here at the church for
Oh, yeah.
a handful of $100 bills, and
Yeah.
we see amazing impact and just people so excited about somebody caring enough to do something for them.
Yeah. I do. Like there's this whole culture. I know that you wanted to get into the whole preachers and sneakers thing. Like
Yeah.
that whole culture where like some of these guys are, and I don't even know that I fully have landed on how I feel about it, but to me some of it feels really awkward that like
Yeah.
you see somebody up on stage that's wearing like a $5,000 belt and you're like I don't know that I don't know that I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I don't know, like I know a lot of those guys. Like if you've never seen the Preachers of Sneakers Instagram, it's this guy started an Instagram page that essentially he shows what mega church pastors or famous pastors are wearing on stage, and then he'll show you the actual retail cost of them.
Yeah.
Stuff and it like blew up really big, podcast, book, everything. But like at the same time, a lot of those guys that are getting thrown under the bus essentially on that site, like they are doing very well for themselves, and it's not because of their churches, and that's the fallacy behind it,
Yeah.
right? Like people like drill like someone like Stephen Furtick for wearing, a $1,000 pair of shoes or a $4,000 pair of shoes or a, $2,000 Fear of God hoodie or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you don't understand. Like he's on the record of like he gives 40% of his salary from the church back to the church, and the vast majority of money that he's out there living like that with comes from the books that he's writing.
Yeah.
And speaking engagements that are happening outside of the church. And so like on some level, like the Lord does bless us to enjoy, at the same time, like for me,
you shouldn't feel bad about
yeah,
because people look at. I mean, you can't just look at the physical things that people are buying or purchasing. If whenever it comes around to anniversary time,
yeah,
for you and your wife, you're not just going to go to Taco Bell and just say, "Well, let's take that
yeah,
money."
we're doing
You
it for
can-
the Lord, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you can do that.
and if that's your conviction, you should do that. But like, I could walk you through scripture after scripture after scripture that talks about how like God blesses His people for their own enjoyment. Like,
Yeah.
if like, and I've said this before, and it's not to pat me and Megan on the back, but honestly, since Megan and I made practically no money at this church
Yeah.
to where we're at now, we've been in the top 25 givers of this church that whole time.
Yeah.
Right, and if that wasn't true of us, I wouldn't feel comfortable maybe having a $140 pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Right, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But we are generous to our church, to the Lord. We put that first. We're generous in other ways
Yeah.
as well, and so I do think that in some of those ways, God goes, okay, then I have blessed you in certain ways to, enjoy your life. Like this whole idea that Christians are supposed to just live these like meager, pitiful, like sorry lives.
Yeah.
That's not the gospel whatsoever. Or
No,
like
because all of us that are listening here, especially in America, we would have to sell everything that we own. We'd have to sell. I mean, if that's the mindset, if we're going to go down that rabbit trail, then we need to just liquidate everything. I mean, I believe that God wants us to enjoy things as it's necessary, not to where it gets into the place of like that's all we think about.
Yeah.
No, but we need to be super like aware of God's leading in our lives to whenever He says bless then you need to bless.
Yeah.
You know, if he says to partner financially with this mission effort, then you need to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I couldn't. I don't know if I would be able to get away with taking my wife to Taco Bell, anyways. I mean, I mean, if that's what the Lord put on our heart, but I want to be able to honor her. I want to be able
Yeah.
to show her that I love her and take her to, because we don't eat out often, and going out to a nice restaurant and spending some money on it. Nobody would ever bat an eye on me spending money to show my wife
Yeah.
that I love her.
And I all of us have limits.
Oh, yeah.
right? I mean, like,
I'm not gonna go buy $1,000 pair of shoes.
no.
God,
No, I'm not. But if there was ever a time, like if you're like, oh, in 10 years from now, you had a #1 album
yeah,
in contemporary Christian music out there, and let's say that you're giving away, $1 million because the album's doing good,
yeah,
you probably would go buy $1,000 pair of shoes,
maybe.
right? Because at that moment, when finances change like that, like, money is just at different levels, right? So, like,
Correct.
if you're at let's say, like, because some of these guys, like, they're selling books, or worship leaders that are selling albums, like, we're talking, they're making money like what local church pastors, we don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
So, like, but, like, let's say that they're making $10 million a year off of books and speaking engagements. Let's say they're tithing $1 million of that.
Yeah,
To go and buy $1,000 pair of shoes probably feels like what it does when me and you go and buy $100 pair of shoes, right? It probably doesn't.
we're
feel,
on top of the world.
Yeah, it probably doesn't feel any different
Yeah.
for them whatsoever. That's just a different level. And, like, sure, you could get super religious about it and go like, well, if you got $10 million, you're only giving away $1 million. Maybe you should give away $5 million. Like, who couldn't live on $5 million a year? It's like, yeah, okay, if the Lord told you to do that, you absolutely should. But there's only one person in all of the scriptures that Jesus told to go and sell everything.
Yeah.
I mean, only one person. So, like, this hard and fast rule of, like, that we're all supposed to be miserable, like, you just don't find that in the scriptures
Yeah.
at all. And the reason why Jesus told the rich young ruler to go and sell everything was because he had an issue.
Yeah.
Like, he had a major issue.
Like money was the only
Yeah,
thing he
money
thought about.
was his God, and and Jesus is like, the only way I'm ever going to get a hold of your heart is if I get all this other stuff out.
Yeah.
We got to start fresh,
yeah.
right? And so, and I wouldn't say, like, if you're a overly materialistic person, you have trouble being generous and all this, then I'm not speaking to you right now. I'm talking to people that, like, you're already being faithful to the Lord in your finances.
Yeah.
God is not expecting every single person to go to, like, poverty, right? To, like, I'll never forget, there was a time in mine and Megan's life where we were giving so much to the church. Again, not to pat myself on the back, but this will just give you an insight to our stupidity at one point. We were giving so much to the church that we were having to go in debt in other areas of our life because we were giving so much to the church ignorantly.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, God's not asking you to, like, remortgage your house to pay your tithe either.
Yeah.
Right? He's not asking you to do foolish things financially either. So, like, you got to find that place of faithfulness with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's like, you have to honor your family. I think that if you were talking to the Lord, he would go, look, you're first and foremost, your priority is taking care of your family.
Yeah.
Like, don't do something that jeopardizes your family's financial future.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Like, take care of your family. Take care of your faith family. Like, take care of feeding into the kingdom. If you're doing those two things, then I think that the Lord, outside of certain special circumstances, I mean, he wants you, he's given it to you for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's where that conversation with some of these guys wearing $5,000 Gucci belts and things like that. I mean, I guess if that's what brings you joy, to have a $5,000 belt, that I mean, I don't.
If I ever have a $5,000 belt, I give you permission to take it off me and give me a whooping.
Yeah, I will whip you with it. Right, but I don't know how I feel about that necessarily, because I know there are some people that are, like, really anti all of that whole thing, and then, then for me, I'm like, but you don't know how generous these people are being. Like,
Correct.
You don't know the behind the scenes. Like, if you see somebody out on a trip or whatnot, you don't know, like, if they've given away, $10,000 that year, $100,000 that year, like, to bless people, and now they're out on a vacation that they've worked their butts off for. Like,
Yep.
But there's like this culture inside the church that like I think for a really, really, really long time, like churches did their best to try to make pastors live meager lives to keep them humble,
Oh yeah.
which is so unbiblical, right?
Mhm.
Like the Apostle Paul writes in Timothy, he says like the worker, talking about full-time ministers, the worker is worth not just their wage, but double their wage.
Yeah.
Like the double, like he said, like Paul says, people that are in full-time ministry should be taken care of financially. And what the church did for a long, 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 long time to pastors was like, oh, we'll keep you humble by paying you nothing and making you live in a crap parsonage, and then you can't build any, individual wealth whatsoever because you don't get to own a home because we're going to make you live in our home that we own. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, wait a second, that's not biblical at all. Like if you want your pastor to be like below poverty line and stuff as some means of keeping him humble,
Yeah.
you just don't know the scriptures whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, like, and it's so important to just kind of follow that biblical model of like how the church should function in terms of like lead pastor and then having elders. And what I'm trying to get at is like if the church is going out of their way to make sure that the pastor is getting paid, I think that the pastor should be held accountable for the amount of money that he's making,
Absolutely.
because he needs to be effective and not just doing enough just to get by and
Yep.
not doing anything to reach the community.
Yeah.
Because if all you're doing is getting up here and you recycle and regurgitate the same messages every 18 months and then it comes back around to the top or whatever, you've got 70 whatever.
Yeah, no, like if you're going to get paid like the Bible says you should get paid, you better
Yeah.
earn it.
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is if you're dealing with a person in that position that can't handle that, like can't handle that amount that you're going to pay them in a responsible way, then you don't have a pay structure issue. You have a pastor issue. You have the wrong person in the wrong seat. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, if you're like, man, I don't know, man, if we pay this guy, this much, it's probably going to go to his head and he's going to go and, or like, man, you pay this guy this much and then, you've got it's not the money that's the issue. It's the minister at that point.
Well, I
Or,
mean,
like, if you
somebody,
have someone that you can't trust,
yeah.
you've got the wrong person.
And also, if you have somebody that can't manage their own personal finances, how are you
Yeah.
going to expect them to manage something that's sometimes 10, 20, 30 times more than what they get paid for a large organization? I mean, it's just going to be catastrophic.
Southridge is a mid-sized church. Our budget's right at $600,000.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you shouldn't have someone in the lead seat that doesn't know how to manage their own personal finances.
Yeah.
And then say, "Oh, but we'd love for you to manage this $600,000 budget." I mean, that would be absurd.
Yeah.
To to think that. So, like, again, if you don't have someone you can trust,
Yeah.
you don't have a money problem. You have a minister problem. Like, it's on that person. If that person is going to go out and act like a fool with the money that the church is because and this is why I take the way that I spend money in my life really seriously, because I understand. Like, Megan and I both work at the church. Outside of like little side gigs that we come up with,
Yeah.
every single dollar that comes into our house comes from people sacrificing to give
Oh,
for us to hold these positions.
100%.
And so for that reason, I'm like, we have to honor that.
Yeah.
Right? We can't act like fools with that. That's someone's hard-earned money that they are literally giving to the Lord to take care, to expand the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so, like, and if you don't have someone that has that mindset, then you have the wrong person in that seat. Like, I take that. I am like, sometimes I will feel self-conscious, and I don't know whether that's like years of church experience kind of built up that makes me feel like it's. I only really ever knew like pastors to be poor growing up.
Yeah.
Right, like my dad was a pastor until I was like 3 or 4. Never made very much money, ever. Like, all I ever saw was like people that were poor.
Mm-hmm.
In ministry, so I kind of thought that's how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
and so that's what I just always assumed would be, and nobody's getting rich at Southridge,
Yeah.
but like we're also not living below the poverty line, which is why this is such an incredible church. It's but like I only ever saw that side of ministry growing up. Like if you ever like I remember like, oh, there's a guest pastor came in this weekend. Our family wants to take them out to dinner because they probably don't get to do that very much.
Yeah.
Right? And that whole idea of, well, we got to take the guest preacher out for lunch because, they probably don't have the money to even feed themselves lunch. I'm like, that sounded normal to me.
Oh,
and
it
now
was.
that I understand the scriptures and
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, that's not the way this is supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like the minister is not supposed to be paid pennies, right? Like, but I understand there are certain churches they don't bring in enough money,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I get that. So then, like, what are we supposed to do in those situations? Like, if you can't pay the pastor what he's worth, like, what are you supposed to do? Because the scripture says this, but like, let's say you only got 30 people attending.
Yeah.
Those 30 people may all be impoverished people themselves, but then they should have a shepherd over them. So like, what do you do in those situations?
Yeah.
It gets really, really messy in that. But I also think there needs to be a lot of grace both ways. Like the pastor needs to be self-aware enough to not unintentionally cause damage to people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh yeah, I'm taking y'all's money and living large. Like that doesn't look good. But at the same time, the congregation shouldn't look at the pastor went on that vacation, and this is the way some people are. We paying him too much? He seems like he's enjoying life too much. Are we paying him too much? And it's like, good Lord, can we just find a middle ground between him acting foolishly and y'all trying to make sure that he stays humble by keeping him poor?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not the route. And I think that's that bigger conversation that's happening around the preachers and sneakers thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that like my heart kind of goes out to is the bivocational pastors as well. That you said, they're pastors over these smaller congregations of 20, 30 people. Maybe they're trying to, do some church revitalization.
Yeah.
Try to, spark some new life in there and get more people on board with their mission and stuff. And so my heart always goes out to the pastors because that those guys are, first off, they're working their tail off at their primary job, and then they come home and they sacrifice a lot of time to prepare for sermons and stuff like that, which makes me like super grateful that that Southridge is able to have somebody in a full-time, multiple people on full-time position, but just not only because like, you were strictly focused, we're all strictly focused on ministry, but also I couldn't imagine being in a church that had a part-time guy and they have something catastrophic happen, like our leak. Like that would take them probably upwards of a year to 18 months to try to navigate and try to get all of that stuff taken care of, on top of managing church, on top of trying to be a husband, a father, on top of trying to, make sure that my boss is getting my best effort at my other job. Like that's it's so disheartening for me, but I pray for churches, like smaller churches.
And it's not a big deal if someone has to be bivocational.
Correct.
But like sometimes people end up in bivocational situations because the church will use this like excuse of like, oh well, Paul was a tent maker. If Paul had to work to support his ministry, you should have to work to support your ministry as well. It's like, well, wait a second. That's the same guy that wrote that the minister is worth a double honor in wages. Like Paul being a tent maker was not the prototype for how you should treat pastors.
And you're talking about the guy that was like going around starting churches.
Yeah, yeah. Like, but that's what
Like
they'll do. They will go and they'll be like, well, Paul was a tent maker, so why shouldn't you have to work to support yourself in ministry? And it's like, well, because Paul didn't say that was the prescription for how you're to treat the pastor. In fact, he said something completely opposite of that.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you are in a situation where your church cannot afford you full time, what I would say to that church is you need to make sure that you allow that minister to go and actually make a living And so you can't have the same expectations of him,
Yeah.
right? That's what happens. A lot of bivocational guys get treated like full-time people, but they get paid part-time money.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to them, right? Like you were saying, they're going to get up, they're going to go work all day, then they've got to go do ministry stuff all night. And it's like you actually are in those situations, you are not going to be able to treat him like he's a full-time employee,
Yeah.
right? So he's not going to be able to be at every funeral, every wedding. He's not going to be able to be at all the hospital calls and all that. Like, you just cannot expect that out of someone bivocational, and a lot of places do.
Yeah.
And it, like, you can't, like, have it both ways. Like, you can't pay him part-time and then expect all this out of him. So I would say, like, you need to make sure that you give that minister the ability to go out and actually provide for their family if you're not able to support him at that time.
Yeah.
Like, you need to say, okay, look, go and take care of your family. Like, make sure that you have a job that, like, and then, get your elder board or your whoever, deacons and all that to cover some of the gaps.
Yeah.
Because you can't expect that of someone in that position, right? So it's just, it's been an interesting conversation over the last couple of years, ever since that Instagram page came out.
Yeah.
Because people are trying to, like, find that balance between, like, what's reckless but what's enjoying God's blessing and what doesn't look good, right?
Yeah.
Because I still think that we do need to think about that as well.
Yeah.
Like, what doesn't look like, hey, if you got a $3,000 pair of shoes on, like, what does that say to the person in your congregation that doesn't know where the next meal's coming from?
But is still faithfully giving.
Yeah. But then at the same time, like, and this is why my you can see me just jumping back and forth on this argument.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I go, there's someone out in that audience that knows those shoes, that now a door has been opened up with them, with that pastor, because they have something, they have that common ground there, right? Like, I know a lot of fashion or shoes and things like that, for a lot of pastors, they go like, look, this helps me reach a certain group of people that may seem a little bit unreachable, because it builds a bridge to them, because I'm not coming at them with a 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
And like, I've had people tell me, because I wear jeans here to preach in, that they felt more comfortable coming up and talking to me, listening to me preach, even attending here.
Yeah.
Right? So so it's like, okay, well, you might be making one person at one time feel very uncomfortable because they don't know where the next meal's coming from, and you're wearing an expensive pair of shoes. At the same time, you're opening up a bridge to talk to someone else in a way that you might not get access to them. Right? So there's this weird tension that I think everyone's always trying to manage.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know the answer, other than there's some things that we see in the scriptures, and that, I mean, it's a hard conversation.
Yeah. All that to say, what's your favorite pair of shoes? What's a dream pair of shoes?
Oh, man. I was actually telling Megan on the way in, I've only worn my Dunks once.
Yeah.
They are the most comfortable pair of shoes from the first time putting them on that I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking to expand the amount of those that I have.
Yeah, I've got a pair of Dunks. They're not like the traditional ones. They're a little bit more like mesh like this on the side, but I like them. They're super comfortable.
They felt incredible. Like, because sometimes when I put my Jordans on for the first couple of wears, man, they don't feel great at all.
Yeah. But money not being an option, and there's always a pair of shoes.
Jordan 4s, Jordan 11s. The Jordan 4 cool grays are probably the ones that I'm like,
that you really want.
Yeah, they're in like the $500 or $600 range. If you ever see them on my feet, don't judge me. Because trust me, if I ever have those, it's because I've been working really, really hard.
I've trained a lot of kids in baseball.
Yeah, I'm doing baseball lessons. I'm umpiring games. I'm selling stuff. Like, if I ever, because I love those shoes. I love the cool gray colorway on just about all of the Jordans.
Yeah.
But the Jordan 4s and the cool gray are probably, and those are, if I say dream shoes, those are like $500, right?
Yeah. And people buy $500 shoes probably every other day.
$1,800, $2,000, $3,000 shoes. Like, I love the Jordan 4 cool grays. Like, my new Jordan sandals are the cool gray colorway.
Okay.
So that may be the closest I ever get.
Yeah. My dream pair is a pair of Travis Scott's, and they're called the Mochas, and they're based off the Jordan 1s, and they're high. They're
Oh, yeah.
high tops, but the Nike check is backwards.
On all of his shoes.
Yeah, on all of his shoes, but it was the first one that where he did the Nike check
I know.
backwards.
I know which pair you're talking about.
Oh man, dude.
So I just got a pair of Travis Scotts for Christmas, but
Yeah.
they're cheap actually.
They were like the first. They were like the first one or two that he came out with. And then whenever he did the swoosh, like all of the backwards Nike swoosh, like
Yeah.
everything just skyrocketed, just
I-
up in value. But I would love to have a pair of those.
I wore my Travis Scotts on the first Sunday of the year after Christmas, and this is so funny because, like, there are some people in our church that that are into sneakers like we are, but
Yeah.
the vast majority of them are not. So like I was sitting on the back row in between services, and like people are like looking at them. Like most people find them to be very ugly. Megan hates them,
Yeah.
but they've got that backwards swoosh on them, and so somebody came up and they're like, "You know that swoosh is backwards? What are those? Some like knockoff Nikes or something?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you guys do not understand shoes here at all."
Yeah.
Because I could see why some people don't like, because they're the Travis Scott Air Trainers.
Oh yeah.
And they're like they are kind of a unique colorway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear them again this Sunday.
If you could make your own shoe, would you do something like completely new and different, or would you or would there be a shoe that it would be based off of, and then you can just change like the fabrics and the colors and stuff like that?
Yeah, I like, as far as I'm concerned, I like the Dunk Lows,
Yeah.
Nike, or the Jordan 1s lows. I'm not really huge on high shoes.
Yeah.
So I like the Jordan 1 lows. I like the 4s. I like the 11s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I would just buy those 4 in a bunch of different colorways.
Yeah. So if you could make your own shoe, it would be based off of one of those.
Yeah.
Mine
Probably
would be
the
the Jordan
Dunks.
3s.
Jordan 3s.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I have a pair of those, and they're called the Tinkers. They're called the Tinkers.
Yeah.
Is the guy who designed all the Jordan shoes from Jordan 3 to now. His name is Tinker Hatfield.
Yeah.
And so he finally was able to design his own pair like 30 years after the fact.
Yeah.
Way to go, Nike.
Yeah.
But I would do Jordan 3s. I like the high tops.
And they have a pair of, and that I'm hoping these aren't as expensive as some of the other ones, but they have a pair of Dunk Lows that are Michigan Wolverine colorways, and I do love Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
So I do want those as well. Those are high up on the list, but again, they're outside of my cheapskate range.
Yeah.
So unless I just come across a really good deal, those will probably escape me as well. But I do love those as well.
You know what I realized too? Like about 10 minutes into this episode, I didn't have my jar for the mystery meat,
Praise the Lord.
but I got it on my phone because we have
What?
a user submitted question.
Oh,
So-
man. I thought I was going to get out of that.
Did you notice it too?
I thought I saw it. Oh, I saw it on your desk this morning. That's
Yeah.
when I saw it.
Okay. The question is, it says, if it were possible, what song would you choose to be played every time you walk into a room? It would be like your entrance music, like if you were a wrestler.
Holy cow. Every single time? Like,
Yeah, like say, okay, so you're about to leave this room and
it
you're about to go
changes.
back
It would
to the
change
cafe
so
where
much
our
for me.
offices
Like-
are.
I get real hot on songs, and then, like, I will just drop them,
Yeah,
right? So, like, it would change so much for me.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of what that would be currently. All right. Well, since I just told everyone Sunday about my obsession for
Oh, T
Taylor Swift, right now it would be Anti-Hero. But I will also asterisk this before someone messages me like, "Do you know what that song's about?" The answer is no, I don't. I don't understand those lyrics at all. So if she's saying something horrendous, I'm very sorry. I just love that song. I don't know what it's actually about though. Right? Like that one's not hitting me like real deep in the feels to where I'm going like, "Oh, I know what she's saying." Like, no. I just for some reason like that song, even though I find the lyrics to be very odd and confusing.
Yeah.
So right now it would probably be that,
Yeah.
but it would literally probably change almost every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I love music, even though I'm not musically inclined whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This time last year, it would have definitely been "Fight Song" by
Fight
Rachel
Song, yeah.
Platten.
Yeah.
Why is it all these female artists? I don't know. I don't know. It. I don't know. Maybe 6 weeks ago, it might have been "Carrying Your Love with Me" by David Morris.
Yeah.
It's always changing.
I'm gonna go classic. So I've always been like, for some reason I've always been like a huge pop culture nerd.
Yeah.
Like I've loved stuff from like the 70s, 80s, like the MTV era, music, television, and all that. But so back in the day, I'm gonna spill some family secrets. So my dad would take like blank VHS, and anytime a movie would come on the television, he would record it. And he'd be like, "Hey, you want to watch a movie?"
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it'd still have like all the advertisements in
Yeah.
the middle of it. And so we had a copy of the Karate Kid, the original one with Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
And towards the end of that movie, whenever they're doing like the big tournament at the end, there's this song by Joe Esposito, and it's "You're the Best Around." And
I feel
so
like you've told me this before.
yes, I think I've played it for you too. But it's
Yeah.
like this big old fight montage of Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio's character in The Karate Kid, and he's kicking all these people and, punching them in the face, and he keeps on winning all the fights. And so they're playing this song. And so I get psyched up for it. I always have my whole entire life. I hear the guitar whenever it starts to come on. And so I'm getting excited just think I can hear the song playing in my mind right now. And I'm getting amped up we're about to go
this
to,
will steal
we're about
your-
to go to a funeral, and I'm like getting all
This will
hyped
steal
up.
all your thunder on that. I've never seen that movie. Ever.
Get out.
Yeah, I have no desire to see that movie either.
What?
I don't at all. I'm not into it. I'm not into the Cobra Kai thing that came out on Netflix. Like,
Yeah,
I never watched any of them.
dude, what was your childhood like
Sports movies other than karate.
other than karate?
Now, the only fighting movies that I really remember watching growing up were actually, do you remember Jean-Claude Van
I was
Van
about to say
Damme?
like stuff like Bloodsport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bloodsport was my jam, which I was way too young to be watching stuff like that.
Oh,
I
for
don't know
sure.
how because my parents were very particular on what we watched.
Yeah,
But for some reason, my mom was always okay with me and Jean-Claude Van Damme or whatever his name
Yeah.
is. Like, I watched a lot of his stuff, like a
For
lot of his
real.
cage fighting stuff. And, like, I watched them as adults, and I'm like, I am very shocked that my parents let me watch this because it was definitely not kid material.
What was the
at
one
all.
where they put the tape on the outside of his hands and then they dipped it in like glass?
Oh, yeah, it
and
was one of the
nails and
blood
stuff?
sports, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like they had like the fighting platform.
But I
that
love
that
that
angled up.
Yeah, that first one where he has to fight that big what? Gosh, and I swear I just saw that guy that he fought in something recently. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like dude, that dude was huge. Remember, and he throws the powder up in his eyes at
His
one
name was
point in the fight,
Chun-Li or something like that.
something like that.
He had like long black hair,
Yeah,
and he's just absolutely
dude, he
jacked.
is huge.
Yeah.
Like, I love that fight with those two is awesome because what like he like almost kills his friend earlier on
Yeah.
fighting and that stuff. But I think the one where he dips
Yes, the
dips
big
it-
redneck guy that had like the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, he almost kills that guy. Yeah. But I
Oh,
think
that's
where
so
they dip
funny.
the hands in the glass, I think that's like Bloodsport 2 or 3. That's
Yeah.
like they're no longer in that underground thing. I think they're in like a different whatever. But
It's
yeah,
now
I
sanctioned
watched-
fights.
yeah, I watched a bunch of those growing up, and I to this day have no idea how I convinced my mom to let me do that.
Dude, for real.
But I've
It
never
may
seen
have
Karate
been-
Kid.
Where did your parents ever record stuff on VHS and let y'all watch it later?
Oh, I'm sure that we.
if it was ever
recorded
like
stuff.
made for TV, like then like I think that's why we
I
had
think
like
that we rented
what
them.
were like rated R movies.
I think we
but-
rented them
Yeah.
like from the store, like Blockbuster style, Hollywood Video. That's one from around here that you wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, we had Hollywood Video
Did
too.
you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I thought that was a local thing.
No, yeah, they were all over.
Yeah.
So like it makes me think now like I need to go back and like watch all these movies like unedited, because if I got the made for
Oh,
TV
yeah.
version, they're gonna leave a lot of stuff out. I want to go back and watch them and go, I don't remember that.
Yeah. I do remember they are a lot cheesier than I remember them to be.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But back to the original thing, I have no interest in the Karate Kid whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't. It's just not my thing.
All right.
Yeah. I've watched some of the new Karate Kid with was that kid's
Will
name?
Smith's son.
Jaden Smith
Yeah.
or whatever. Like our kids got into that for a minute, but I don't even know if we ever watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Lose interest in that.
It wasn't that interesting.
Yeah.
It's hard to read. It's like it's like if somebody remade, like, did you watch the new Jumanjis whenever they did like the reboot and the remake of that?
I liked the first one, but after the first one, they weren't good.
Yeah, but like, were you like as in like were you as like
I liked
excited
the
about
first new Jumanji better than the original Jumanji, but then the ones that came after that I thought were terrible.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have to save we'll do like a pop culture podcast.
Yeah.
That'll be
Like
a
a
good
movie remakes.
one. Yeah, like a movie. Yeah, because you're into movies and stuff.
Oh yeah.
We talked a little bit about it, but like we need to get deep into movies.
Yeah. I've got some hot takes.
I know, especially on Christian movies. Hey guys, thank you so much for being a part of our episode today. We love you all. If you got any questions that you want to ask us for the mystery meat, let us know. You can reach out to us through Facebook and TikTok. We're on there as well. Yeah, I just posted a new thing yesterday. But we love you all. Thank you for being a supportive listeners, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.